Continuing from the previous episode 2185. Quote. When Xiao Yan heard the words, he couldn't help but his head was full of black lines. He finally managed to deal with the foreign evil clan, and let the face of the core absorb the power here, so he was ready to collect it. Such a weird guy. Now that Xiao Yan has just finished the battle, his body is extremely deficient. In this situation, it would be a problem to deal with the 8-star fighting immortals by himself. If he were to deal with the level of samsara in front of him, it would be very difficult. Although there is an existence that dominates the lower body, you can't always defend and not attack, right? Moreover, this thing is a real treasure. Xiao Yan believes that once he uses it many times, he will probably attract countless people to compete. The core of the plane has two kinds of human cultivation and wild nature. The value of human cultivation is too huge. Once it appears, it is enough to cause a sensation. Although the naturally brewed core of the plane is good, it is too difficult to find, so it leads to this kind of thing is extremely rare in the world. The core of the plane above the Yuan High continent has always existed, but it was forgotten by the powerhouses of the immortal realm because of the energy seal of the lower body and the evil clan. I found this thing first. I will not accompany you. Seeing that the core of the plane was about to mature, Xiao Yan carefully put it away, and then secretly absorbed the power here to nourish it, with signs of leaving. Although the formations in the surrounding sea area were powerful, they still couldn't beat Xiao Yan. After all, Xiao Yan could cast nearly 100,000 formations, and the formations in front of him were only tens of thousands. Since this thing exists in our fairyland territory, it is something of our fairyland. You hand him over to me. And your identity is unknown. I suspect that you have an affair with an alien race. I have to ask you to go to Immortal Realm to assist in the investigation. The white figure's tone was aggressive, and even had a hint of self-confidence. He didn't give Xiao Yan a chance to escape at all. White clouds emerged from the power of the formation, blocking all of Xiao Yan's escape routes. Looking at this battle, it seems that Xiao Yan has settled down. Don't go too far. Xiao Yan frowned when he noticed that the dazzling white clouds around him contained holy powers, and the formations that were directly arranged one after another clearly looked like a prison-like formation. This guy's strength is actually a reincarnation level? Moreover, Xiao Yan naturally didn't know that she came from the immortal realm, and mistakenly thought that she was a member of Yuan High continent, otherwise Xiao Yan would definitely not stay for long. It is true that there is only Dou Qi in the immortal world, with 4 continents in the last 3 days. Unfortunately, in the long years that followed, the immortal world also began to take over the lower world continent. Although it has the least territory in the Great Thousand Worlds, it is quite popular among humans, so it still has many territorial continents. Hand over things. The woman let out a coquettish cry, and the cold beams burst upon the jade sword, forcing Xiao Yan, and the formation around her body also blocked all of Xiao Yan's escape routes. This woman has a good appearance, but now Xiao Yan is unable to protect himself and has no time to appreciate these things. I will not accompany you. Xiao Yan didn't want to have anything to do with the guys on this continent, and now he just wanted to bring the core of the plane back to upgrade the Dou Qi continent to solve his worries. As soon as he finished speaking, he controlled the little vindictive energy left in his body and ran away quickly. Where to run? The slender jade hand controlled the jade sword, forming hundreds of white beams in a row in the sea area, blasting towards Xiao Yan. This crazy woman is really troublesome. Feeling the sharp fluctuations, Xiao Yan shook his head helplessly, and then spread out the core inscription, trying to deal with it, cracking its formation. Strange, this tortoise shell on this guy's body is so strong. Why did my attack fall on it? It's just like making a fuss. After some shots, the woman's eyebrows wrinkled, her beautiful eyes stared at Xiao Yan's tyrannical body, carefully examining it. You are one of the reincarnations. How would you still be so stalemate against a mere 8-star fighting immortal? How you a formation? Imprison him for me. The woman's voice fell, and the silver light formation around her body became restless, turning into countless silver stars, chasing and killing Xiao Yan. Look at me, the 7th level breaking ruler. Seeing this, Xiao Yan, in order to distract his attention, hurriedly put away Baxia's body, then pulled out the ancient ruler that he had been carrying behind him, and slashed at the woman indiscriminately. 7 gigantic lights gushed out, with great momentum, but their power was terrifyingly small. Now that he has a different identity, He is the lord of the Endless Fire territory. What he does cannot be too public, so he arbitrarily uses some low-level fighting skills to confuse the public. Too weak. She casually swept away Xiao Yan's attack, and the woman was chasing after him. Judging from his serious appearance, it was obvious that he did not intend to let Xiao Yan go. Don't go too far. Having been unable to get rid of this guy, Xiao Yan's brows had a hint of anger. The Immortal Realm lives under the center of the Immortal Realm. Provoking such a giant now will definitely cause a lot of inconvenience to the Endless Fire territory. Moreover, Xiao Yan is currently lacking in strength, and protecting the core of the plane is the main responsibility. Hand over that thing. Because Xiao Yan moved extremely fast before, the woman didn't see what it was. The only thing that was certain was that it was very valuable and full of energy. Your Majesty Chang'e, are you here? Xiao Yan patted his forehead, and slowly remembered several powerful people in the center of the Immortal Realm who could speak out. Your Majesty. At the same time, the white woman also had a look of astonishment. Her whole body became quiet. Looking at Xiao Yan's appearance, she couldn't help but quietly turned her head to prepare to find out. The white woman turned her head, but found that there was no one in sight. At the same time, the formation around her body was broken, as if something had slipped out. Okay, how dare you play me? My fairy moon palace, I will arrest you this time. The voice was transmitted in a mighty manner, and the woman's speed was skyrocketing, chasing after Xiao Yan who was running away. It's really a broom star. Xiao Yan was helpless and did not dare to return to Dou Qi continent easily, so he could only stay on top of Yuanhai continent and return for too long. Otherwise, if he was discovered by this guy, he would inevitably have some other troubles. At this point, the search for the core of the plane is also over, and even Xiao Yan has obtained the full version of the Tyrant Dragon, plus the husk of the Tyrant that is strong enough to resist the 4-layer reincarnation attack. This trip has been quite rewarding. Feng, Dou Qi continent, headquarters of Endless Fire territory. The matter of the Xiao family seems to have to find some time to resolve, otherwise it will only be more and more unfavorable to us if we drag it on like this. Feng Wan'er and Xiao Zifen appeared in the same mansion. Among them were several high-level officials, 3 mistresses, and others. Everyone had already settled some matters in the 2 continents and paid attention to the affairs of the Great Thousand World. The Xiao clan's affairs involved too much. Now, with the help of Senior Demon Emperor and Senior Soul Eater, we shouldn't act rashly. Everything can only be done when Xiao Yan's strength reaches Samsara. After all, the Xiao clan has provoked too many powerhouses. Xiao Zifen shook his head, and he didn't know much about these things. After all, he was trapped in the ghost world and let him avoid the Xiao clan. I'm afraid it will be about the 7 realms in the Great Thousand Worlds. Yep, the rest will be discussed later. Now all preparations are done, just wait for Xiao Yan to retrieve the core of the plane. Everyone smiled sweetly, and their voices were filled with a trace of relief. The current prosperity of the Endless Fire territory is obvious to all. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2186. 1 month later, at the top of a lofty mountain range on the edge of Yuanhai continent, the guy who was chasing Xiao Yan had given up. Although he was angry, he could only do it because of Xiao Yan's flexible avoidance. This guy has a very strange aura, and it sounds like it's from the Moon Palace? Forget it. I finally got rid of this guy now. Now that Fenju has stepped into the first realm, plus all kinds of power, it seems that the time to step into the reincarnation must be accelerated. Xiao Yan sat on top of a bluestone, and a luxurious golden scroll appeared on the palm of his hand, causing the void in front of him to erupt with an extremely terrifying space force. Space Teleportation Scroll. This is a good thing made by the reincarnation powerhouse of the Endless Fire domain. It can carry out short-distance space-time transmission, but the disadvantage is that it must have spatial coordinates. Today's Xiao Yan can only rely on this kind of thing, from the Ghost World and other places back to the Dou Qi continent, and cannot use it from the Dou Qi continent. It is one way. Btth2. It is easy to jump into it, and the return journey is only a few hours. Dou Qi continent. In the Dou Qi continent, the Holy Sea War and the battles of the evil clans outside the Dou Qi continent have caused great movement, which has also created the Dou Qi continent's current momentum. Behind it, countless new forces appear to be prosperous. Under such long-lost voices, the strength of Dou Qi continent increased exponentially. Even because of the extraordinary name of the sect master Xiao Yan, some strong men from other continents also came to seek refuge. After all, this is an identity that many 8-star and reincarnation powerhouses have to respect, and it is still so young, and the future achievements are limitless. The sudden rise of a behemoth is naturally coveted by other planes, the endless fire domain, and the current situation is like this. The endless fire territory is different from the Holy See, because the Holy See had the Pope in the seat at the beginning. The super strength and the huge background of the Kingdom of Angels were both blessings, so that the superpowers on other continents, even if they were eyeing them, did not dare to make the slightest move. But now it's different. The new strength of the endless fire territory, both in terms of background and combat power, is far inferior to the Holy See. On the bright side, there is no great power behind the endless fire territory, and some continent powerhouses can't help but have feelings for this fertile continent. After thinking about it, he was just around the corner, quite like a storm was coming. Although they are afraid of Soul Eater Realm, Demon Realm and other places, but those rumors are compared with this continent, and many mainland powerhouses still choose to believe the latter. After all, if the rumors are not seen with their own eyes, they are probably just rumors. In the 4 continents of Dou Qi continent, countless sect forces have been united under the tyrannical manipulation of the 3 women, and all the sects and powerhouses with unknown identities or evil intentions have been driven out. The true master of Dou Qi continent. Many high-level officials in the endless fire territory are aware of this situation, so the reincarnations of the ancient races are not in retreat, and they show up from time to time, shocking the prying eyes of other continents. 3 days later, Xiao Yan successfully brought back the core of the plane, and then handed it over to Feng Wan'er and a few reincarnations. They have already started to upgrade the plane of Dou Qi continent. On the other hand, he found a secluded mountain retreat, and carefully understood the power of Fenju's first realm and the power of the lower body. Hoo-hoo! On the quiet mountain peak, Xiao Yan sat on top of a basin, leisurely spitting out a trace of blue mist. The azure mist was like a wisp of pure energy liquid, swept into Xiao Yan's body, and immediately the azure dragon scales on his skin were looming, and the power contained in them was fascinating. The power of Fenju's first realm is truly extraordinary. After the application, the foundation is more stable, and because of the foundation, the body becomes extremely fearful, and the power of the holy flame has evaporated to the peak, and a very mysterious flame cauldron is vaguely formed in front of the chest. He has an unprecedented increase in volatility, and I am afraid that it will not be a problem to cope with the 8-star consummation. Then the power of dragon transformation under Huba is also extremely fierce. I am afraid that I am able to face some worthy of entering the cycle of reincarnation, or some weak first-level orders. Xiao Yan thought about it in his heart, the traces of amber flames and the cyan dragon shadow intertwined with each other, slowly flowing over his body. However, Xiao Yan was still a little disappointed. After all, the water attribute has not been completely controlled, and now he is nothing but a wood thunder fire. Dian Ring, Zaidu murmured softly, and suddenly Xiao Yan's palm was burning with extremely bright holy flames, burning the Emperor Yan ring. Since Fenju has already surfaced, the secret of this Emperor Yan ring is probably not far from being solved. Wang buzzing, the Emperor Flame ring was burned, and it actually made a very pleasant sound, and immediately a pale yellow sheepskin scroll emerged. Fire attribute scroll? Wait, the middle-level immortal art? Xiao Yan couldn't help but become surprised when he saw the appearance of this scroll. Whoa! Immediately, the clan lines on Xiao Yan's eyebrows also burst into a scorching aura, which immediately echoed with the Emperor Yan ring. I'm afraid this thing has something to do with our disappearing Xiao clan and the predecessors of Tuwash Gudi. Putting away the fire attribute scroll, Xiao Yan couldn't help clenching his fists. Back then, after Senior Xiao Zhan was resurrected, he disappeared. Besides that, there are the 10 temples of Yama. It is said that they are going to restore their power. Wait for me, Xiao Yan murmured, looking forward to the great world that only the strongest can set foot in. Reincarnation. Only when one's own strength steps into reincarnation can he be qualified to touch these things. This is what Xiao Yan is most worried about right now. This guy, he's calmed down a lot these days. Not far from the mountain peak, 2 shadows appeared here. Seeing Xiao Yan's quiet appearance, Mu Yingying spoke first. Let's go. First tell him about the current endless fire domain and then make plans. Zuner smiled sweetly, and then swept over together. My two madams, why are you looking for me? Do you miss being a husband? Xiao Yan got up, the worry on his face was instantly swept away, and he looked at Mu Yingying and Zuner with a smile. You think beautifully. Mu Yingying laughed playfully. Brother Xiao Yan, the endless fire territory is now on the right track. It's only a matter of time before the Dou Qi continent plane is upgraded. After the upgrade is complete, the Dou Qi continent can continue to practice. Zuner explained these things to the two of them one by one, looking like she was content. Xiao Yan and the two daughters were chatting leisurely on the mountain peaks, but after a while, a splendid light of color came out from the headquarters of Endless Fire Territory. The signal from Sister Kaylin? Mu Yingying was quite surprised when she looked at the aura of colorful scales spreading out from the sky in the distance. Now the Endless Fire Territory is impregnable, and there are no evil races from outside the territory. Why is this? Let's go. Sister Kaylin may have made a major discovery. Let's go back. Speaking of which, the three of them stepped into the air and returned to the Endless Fire Territory. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2187. Xiao Yan and the others were extremely fast, and returned to the Great Hall of Endless Fire after a few minutes. When the three came to the hall, they saw a very strange man sitting in the hall. This guy has yellow hair, and his clothes are very strange like a yellow leaf. There are velvety hairs on the ears, and the nose is much sharper than normal humans. There is a very mysterious aura all over his body, like a demon but not a demon, inhuman. Taking a closer look, the aura was only at the mid-level of the 8-star Dou Qi, but the aura on this guy, even the experienced Xiao Yan, was at a loss. It seems that you have never come into contact with such a strange powerhouse, right? This one should be the famous Endless Fire Territory Lord, Master Xiao Yan, right? The man just saw Xiao Yan coming, looked at Xiao Yan carefully, and then hurriedly got up and said eagerly, his voice was extremely fast, and there was a trace of anxiety in his eyes. This is... Xiao Yan walked over to the first person. Kai Lin and Feng Wan'er were also sitting on the side, as if waiting for him. This guy came specifically to find you. Kai Lin shook his head. This guy fell through the void dozens of minutes ago, and appeared strangely in the sky above the territory of the Endless Fire Territory. When he appeared, his aura was fluctuating. Obviously, he suffered a lot of twists and turns, indicating that he wants to see Xiao Yan. Originally, Kaylin would not let such idlers disturb Xiao Yan, but some of the aura on this guy actually made Kaylin feel a little familiar, so there was a scene where Xiao Yan was summoned before. Sir Xiao Yan, this trip is indeed abrupt, but there is no better way. Under the elves, Jushin. The strange man hurriedly cupped his hands and said to Xiao Yan. The elves? Jushin's voice just fell, and several people around him suddenly spoke in unison. Obviously, these two words contain some huge information. Elves? Xiao Yan also wondered. Obviously he had nothing to do with the elves. Elves are the most mysterious creatures apart from humans and monsters. They are more like the incarnation of nature, absorbing countless energies from heaven and earth, nurtured by the essence of the sun and the moon, and ingenious. There are quite a lot of divisions among elves, such as the gorgeous creatures who study witchcraft, and the female elves who are also charming. Feng Wan'er couldn't help but look at this guy a few more times, with no deep meaning. Sir Xiao Yan, don't get me wrong. Behind me are the fire elves. Jushin opened his mouth and his voice became solemn. Obviously, this time he came here for something. Fire elves are the leaders of the elves. They control the unique power in the elves. Flame. Although the flames they control can't be compared to holy flames, they are unique. Even the reincarnation powerhouses are extremely afraid of the way of flames they practice in their hands. Kaylin had also seen it in some ancient books, so she couldn't help but explain. The fire elves? Do you know a guy named Xiao Yi? Hearing Jushin's words, Xiao Yan couldn't help but ask. There was an emotional change in his voice. It's been a long time since I said goodbye to Xiao Yi at the beginning, and the place where Xiao Yi planned to go after she left was also a family of fire elves. Lord Xiao Yan, this subordinate is here today for this reason. There are 3 major tribes in our fire elves. Every 100 years, they will gather together to compete and choose the heir of the next elves. Jushin said intermittently, as if he had some concerns. After all, these things are the secrets of the Fire Elves. But it doesn't matter. What happened to him? Although Xiao Yan's voice was soft, his anger was slowly brewing. Brother Xiao Yan, it's all right. Zuner has quick eyes and quick hands, and hurriedly leaned over to Xiao Yan, soothing Xiao Yan's sudden anger. Zuner naturally also loved Xiao Yi very much, but unfortunately, after the 5 emperors broke through the sky, they never saw them again. Sir Xiao Yi has returned strongly, not only with a new Saint Flame embryo, but also with some secrets in our clan. Under the shrewd leadership of Lord Xiao Yi, the weakest of our 3 tribes is the weakest one. Support began the road of construction and prosperity. In the past few years, regardless of the various crises faced, it has been carried down by Lord Xiao Yi alone, and there are faint traces of confrontation with the other 2 major tribes. And the other 2 major tribes have been noble beings with the blood of the Elf King since ancient times. When they noticed that Lord Xiao Yi was so talented, they couldn't help secretly join forces to suppress Lord Xiao Yi. Now the competition is imminent. The adults are difficult to deal with only one person's strength. The elders in our branch accidentally learned that Xiao Yan and Xiao Yi are brothers, so the subordinates dared. I want to ask the adults to help us to capture the heir to the Fire Elf Patriarch. Jushin said directly, Is this the decision of your branch family or his decision? Xiao Yan was suddenly relieved, and immediately shook his head with a smile. Sir, this is our own decision. The strength of the candidates in the other branches of the second Dao has already entered the cycle of reincarnation. Although Lord Xiao Yi is very talented, he is still under the cycle of reincarnation. In addition to worrying about Lord Xiao Yan, we have strictly ordered us not to search for Lord Xiao Yan privately. Ellipsis quote. But now our branch tribe is on the decline. If the competition fails, the other 2 candidates will be wise, and I am afraid they will kill our entire branch tribe. With the blood of Lord Xiao Yi, I am afraid. Jushin said with a melancholy expression. That guy, I haven't seen him for a long time, actually became so strong. Tomorrow, I will go with you. Xiao Yan laughed unrestrainedly. The heat and anger in his voice could not be contained. My lord, the place where the Fire Elves exist is extremely mysterious. It may take 10 days to build a special space channel, and you will have to use the reincarnation powerhouse in your endless fire domain to make a move. I will point out the coordinates. Jushin heard the words and was overjoyed in a hurry, but after a while he scratched his head and said, after all, he was out of the clan alone to ask for help, so next, he had to rely on Xiao Yan's power to go back. Haha, it's okay. Then in the next few days, I'm afraid I will have to work hard for Feng Lao and others. Xiao Yan nodded, naturally knowing that the Fire Elf is such a giant. For the safety of his own race, the place where he is stationed will change over time, so this situation is quite reasonable. It's okay. But the Fire Elf party, I'm afraid that only the domain owner can go there alone. Now the situation in the Endless Fire domain is not optimistic. Whether it's the 3 mistresses or other powerhouses, they are the backbone of the Endless Fire domain, and none of them are indispensable. Feng Wan'er said worriedly, I am enough alone. Xiao Yan said with a cool smile, he naturally knew their worries. For 10 days, Xiao Yan has been quietly cultivating his own strength, fire attribute, holy flame, thunder attribute, wood attribute, and the magician who has fallen for a long time. With the financial resources of the Endless Fire area, he only collected the 2nd volume for Xiao Yan. Small fairy-level fighting skills. A roll of wood properties. A roll of thunder attributes. A middle-level fairy fire attribute scroll in the Ring of Fire of the Gods. The 3 fighting skills are enough for Xiao Yan to squander among the 8-star fighting immortals. As for the more precious fighting skills scroll, I am afraid that Xiao Yan needs to work hard. As for the alchemist and the soul power, I am afraid it will take a while. Thanks to the financial resources of the Endless Fire territory, it has not been found. After all, for the soul power, whether it is a cultivation method or an attack method, it is too hard to find. However, the amount of power in Xiao Yan's body today is a bit terrifying. The mere midterm strength of the 8-star fighting immortal, the combat power may not be able to be inferred by common sense. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2188. The space channel connecting the Fire Elves has been formed, and the Endless Fire domain will be handed over to you. Xiao Yan and Zhu Xin stood in front of the space passage in front of them and told everyone that time was pressing now, and in order to prevent the news from leaking, they did not mention it to too many people. Do not worry. The three women nodded at the same time, and all the core members also cast a respectful look at Xiao Yan. During the construction of the Endless Fire Territory, extremely huge manpower and material resources were needed, and it also required the hands-on efforts of these high-level leaders, as well as guarding against coveted by other continents, so Xiao Yan could only go on this trip alone. Go! Xiao Yan knew the urgency of the matter, and without any pause, he suddenly waved his hand and stepped into it with Zhu Xin one after another, heading towards the destination. Although it feels good to be protected, I don't like it. Although that may be laborious, the result is worth a try, just wait. Looking at Xiao Yan's figure, the belief in the three girls' hearts to become stronger also expanded. Although the vase was good, it was unpretentious. Among the void space passages, the space passages here are more stable than those constructed in the past, but they are still extremely quiet. From time to time, some space power will roar out, and the power contained in it is also suffocating. Sir Xiao Yan, the headquarters of our Fire Elf clan is located in the north of the Sea of Sky space, and the three directions of the south, east and west of the Sea of Sky, each correspond to the three branch tribes under the Fire Elves. Where, even other creatures are in awe of us. After all, we Fire Elves are the hegemonic forces of the entire world. Along the way, Zhu Xin explained everything about the destination to Xiao Yan. Although this guy restrained himself when he mentioned some things about the Fire Elf, the proud look on his face still appeared uncontrollably. Look at this appearance, I'm afraid it is innate. However, this is understandable. After all, the status of the Fire Elves in the world of Dou Qi is quite good, and it is reasonable to have such arrogance. Yep, Xiao Yan listened carefully to the important information, and swept away the unimportant ones. After all, Xiao Yan didn't care whether he was a fire elf or a water elf, he only had Xiao Yi in his eyes. If something goes wrong with Xiao Yi in this place, Xiao Yan doesn't mind turning the fire elves upside down. Peeved. Suddenly, in the silent void in front of the two, a crack appeared, and in the crack there was a sky-high light, and there was a vague existence of human figures. Above the blurry figure that suddenly appeared, there were waves of extremely tyrannical fluctuations, and he stepped out leisurely. The targets seemed to be Xiao Yan and the two of them. Yep, at this moment, Xiao Yan's eyes couldn't help becoming vigilant, staring gloomily at Zhu Xin next to him. This kind of thing is too coincidental, isn't it? Sir, this matter. Zhu Xin was stared at by Xiao Yan, his heart palpitated, and he hurriedly explained, looking at the figure walking out of the void passage in front of him. He was also puzzled. Zhu Xin, you're doing a good job, and you didn't live up to my expectations, and you didn't waste our Elf King's trust in you. Among the two, one is a woman and one is a man, like the attire of a young lady and a servant. The two broke through the void with a bang and appeared. One of them, a woman in a white dress, slowly stepped out of the crack. The corner of her mouth drew a seductive and icy arc, and said, "You bastard! You actually calculated me." Zhu Xin's face was flushed and he roared. At the beginning, he quietly left the Sea of Sky space alone, and stepped into the endless fire area to find Xiao Yan's help, hiding it from everyone. No one would find out. After thinking about it, Zhu Xin's eyes suddenly became gloomy. The space of the Sea of Sky is extremely stable. Ordinary strong people can't shatter the void and leave without the strength of reincarnation, but he leaves extremely easily. It turns out that all this is actually a conspiracy of the two of you. Zhu Xin growled. It turned out that all of this was deliberately done by the other two candidates. They sent themselves out to look for Xiao Yan, and then took Xiao Yan to their destination to kill him. In that case, even if Xiao Yan fell, they would still have enough. The evidence shows that Xiao Yan fell into the turbulence of space and has nothing to do with the Fire Elves. Next, I'm afraid it depends on the relationship between Xiao Yan and Lord Xiao Yi. After all, the two in front of them are both powerful people who touch samsara, and even the quiet elf man behind him has already stepped into samsara. The one in front of you is the so-called Endless Fire Territory Lord Xiao Yan, right? In the middle stage of the 8-star fighting Immortals, it has the same strength as rumored. Unfortunately, in my eyes, they are still like ants. The woman's icy voice was full of pride. Looking up, the elf woman had yellow hair scattered over her shawl, and an indescribable light aura emerged. In addition, the pointed fluffy ears, Chong nose, fingers and other parts were similar to human beings. Similar in purpose but not the same, the whole body exudes a fragrant fragrance, which is extremely attractive and noble. Lord Xiaoyan was jointly protected by the Demon Realm Demon Emperor and Soul Eater Realm. If you touch him, Jushin gave Xiaoyan an envoy look, as if to signal Xiaoyan to escape. Really, although the rumors are true and false, we choose to do it in a space, which can be regarded as giving you enough face as the Lord of the Endless Fire Domain. You will destroy the core of the battle, leave out the holy flame in your body, and kill yourself here. We can consider letting go of the Endless Fire Domain. The beautiful eyes of the woman in the white dress are extremely indifferent, like a high-pitched queen whispering softly. Boom! Xiaoyan didn't bother about this. He waved a flaming beam and attacked the quiet space channel around him, but it didn't make any waves. Don't bother, the space channel here has been secretly imprisoned by us. Unless you have the strength of reincarnation, you can't escape at all. Seeing Xiaoyan's actions, the elf man behind him sneered leisurely, as if he didn't intend to attack. Oh, it's exactly what I want. After Xiaoyan finished speaking, his whole body was bathed in a layer of silver thunder brilliance, the void all over his body began to tremble, and he disappeared in place the next moment. Che, it turns out to be a coward. Why did Her Royal Highness make us be more careful? Feeling the sudden disappearance of Xiaoyan and the movement of his breath, the elf woman couldn't help shaking her head and sneering. Snapped. Clap. As soon as the woman's voice fell, a rushing sound of breaking wind resounded. Suddenly, everyone saw a silver thunder tiger surging in the void, and a crisp voice came out. On the elf girl's handsome cheeks, there were 2 red slap prints with a trace of silver thunder power, which were particularly red and eye-catching. Oh, how dare you hit me? I am going to kill you. Feeling the burning numbness and pain on the cheeks, the elf woman's eyes were scarlet, and the endless anger, accompanied by a terrifying power, emerged. The strength of this woman is actually a powerhouse with a perfect 8-star fighting immortal and a touch of reincarnation? Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL. Continuing from the previous episode 2189. Is the 8-star Dou Emperor who touches Samsara consummated? The 2 slap marks were branded on the elf girl's delicate cheeks. Xiaoyan just appeared. A layer of surging silver thunder lingered around his body, and an extremely terrifying light of thunder was beating on his skin. You! How dare you hit me? I am going to kill you. The elf girl was furious, and pieces of dark brown fire feathers suddenly appeared in her hands, instantly forming a burst of extremely hot flame ripples, blasting towards Xiaoyan. The bright red color on her face was shocking. If Xiaoyan hadn't let go of her hand just now, I'm afraid such a delicate and tender elf girl would have been instantly wiped out by Xiaoyan. At this time, the elf girl's beautiful eyes contained extreme anger, and the cold killing intent swept out. The women of the elf race have extremely distorted cleanliness, and they pay attention to their elegant and noble words and deeds at all times to distinguish them from the inferior beasts and monsters. The most mysterious creature in the world has been integrated with nature, and is completely different from those low-level monsters. Crack! The seemingly terrifying attack came to an abrupt end when it came into contact with Xiaoyan. Even a trace of dark brown flames swept over Xiaoyan's body, without any attack. It went out like a breeze blowing across his face. Miss Elsa, let me come. The guy in front of him is a guy who doesn't know how to live or die. Dealing with him will tarnish your noble identity. The elf girl collapsed for a while, and the elf man behind her snorted coldly and walked out like a housekeeper. With a grim expression on his face, he opened his eyes, and the terrifying energy made this space shake slightly. That kind of strength is by no means a simple person. Since you insist on doing this, then let's fall here. Xiaoyan's body stood on the void, and the gentle laughter and the terrifying breath of thunder slowly bloomed. The 2 looked at each other, and there was such a strong fighting spirit in their eyes. The Elf Guard, Frost Sill, Endless Fire Territory, Xiaoyan. As soon as the voice fell, the 2 stepped out, and the terrifying energy came out recklessly. Boom! Behind the elf man, a cold current of energy containing the power of ice spewed out and instantly solidified the entire space channel. The power contained in it was extremely cold, making people dazed. Wounded. Ice attribute? Lightning flashes appeared on Xiaoyan's body, and he looked at the elf man in surprise. The elf man in front of him still looks like an elf woman, with long yellow hair, fair skin, and some dark colors in his eyes. But questions also follow. Shouldn't the fire elves all cultivate fire attributes? Lord Xiaoyan, be careful. This guy is Miss Aisha's bodyguard, and his strength has reached the real reincarnation realm. The fire elves are the power of the giants in the sea of the sky. Therefore, in each branch of the tribe, people with high status will hire the powerful elves as bodyguards. Jushin hurriedly reminded Xiaoyan. Disobeying Miss Aisha's will, you deserve death. I will use the power of extremely cold ice to turn you into an ice sculpture and suppress it forever. There was an extremely proud look between the elfman's eyebrows. Not long after the sound fell, the cold tide behind him, countless snow-white energy icicles turned into countless shock waves, and exploded. In the space that was dead and cold in the space passage, the temperature dropped sharply, and waves of white mist and cold currents emerged, suppressing Xiaoyan. The terrifying power actually made this piece of void buzz, and strands of ice came out of nowhere, causing the hair on the skin to stand up. The power of ice is extremely cold. Humph! Xiaoyan snorted coldly, and his heart suddenly moved. The thunderbolt was gathered, and the burning art in the body began to work. At the same time, the amber light burst out from the body, and the foundation was surging, and Xiaoyan's normal bronze skin was actually increased by it. It's like a stubborn stone. An amber flame cauldron appeared on Xiaoyan's chest, and a majestic force traveled around his body. With such a boost, Xiaoyan's body felt indescribably comfortable, even on his fists and skin. A series of special amber lines are looming. There are no rules for that kind of pattern, but Xiaoyan can clearly feel that this thing definitely emerged after the first layer of Fenju burned the foundation. Hoo-hoo! Facing the man's ferocious cold force, Xiaoyan's legs stood in the void. Amber patterns appeared on his fist, and he punched the void in front of him. Whoa! With a punch, the surrounding space was humming, and under the gaze of everyone, the terrifying power disintegrated the cold undercurrent. Then, is that the power of holy flame? The elf girl Aisha stood quietly by the side. Judging from the attacks that Xiaoyan had displayed before, this guy's strength did not seem to be as simple as it appeared on the surface. Moreover, with his unique insight into flames, Xiaoyan was seen through the amber flames that flashed away. Unbelievable. The elf man looked at Xiaoyan being so defiant, trying to fight his own cold power with a punch, and the sarcasm on the corner of his mouth became even more brilliant. He is a dignified reincarnation rank, and his strength is far from that of an 8-star fighting immortal. Xiaoyan's actions are no different from sending him to death. Crack! Before waiting for the elf man's thoughts to take shape, the next moment, the irony and pride in the man's heart will be shattered. Above the ice tide, countless shock-wave ice blades collapsed, and cracks visible to the naked eye filled the entire cold tide. Crack! How can it be? Feeling the fierce aura above Xiaoyan's fist, the man's eyelids jumped violently uncontrollably, and the undercurrent of ice behind him was instantly annihilated. Like a porcelain vase, countless cracks appeared and shattered. Seeing such a simple confrontation, it ended with Xiaoyan taking the upper hand. Jushin's face couldn't help but become wonderful. It seems that this guy named Xiaoyan is also as perverted and terrifying as Lord Xiaoyi. 8-star fighting immortal midterm battle reincarnation? This kind of prestige, even based on his own experience, is unheard of. What a strange power. Although the elf man belongs to the elf family, he is not a fire elf after all. Under the circumstance that Xiaoyan deliberately suppressed the holy flame, he could not detect it as keenly as the elf girl Aisha was a fire elf. The phoenix of the ice field. Tear him apart for me. The undercurrent was cold and shattered, and Seer's body suddenly flickered, and the cold power whistling above his head was vented, and it vaguely turned into a cold ice phoenix with a body that exceeded 1,000 meters, and the momentum was terrifying. Seeing this, Xiaoyan carried a rare smile on the corner of his mouth. He unleashed a burning determination in his body, and the roots continued to burn, and wisps of pure power flowed out. Together with the amber flame and Saint Yan Kai, he completely burned his body. Stand up. The Phoenix of Frost was raging like a ferocious beast, biting all of Xiaoyan's vital points, but no matter how terrifying the offensive, it did not leave any scars on Xiaoyan's body. Today's Xiaoyan is like a real copper wall and iron wall, and his defensive power is astounding. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Mobile version update fastest URL.